Ladies and gentlemen, in this town there are millions of stories. This one is mine.
Okay. Welcome back to the Sack to Sack podcast from the Iron Goat Brewery in scenic Spokane, Washington. And this week we are talking about, Isaac.
Yeah, this was my pick this week. It's Leningrad Cowboys Go America. It's a 1989 Finnish film by director Aki Kaurismäki. And I guess the best way, I don't know if it's the best way to describe it, but the way I put it to Isaac here was, imagine a late 80s Finnish Wes Anderson's This Is Spinal Tap.
Yeah, that's an all right description. I'd almost call it like if Jim Jarmusch was hired to direct the Blues Brothers.
Okay, yeah, that works too. And,
because it's a little more understated than even Wes Anderson.
Right.
Is.
But I kind of feel like Wes Anderson was influenced by this director, by Kaurismäki. And interesting you bring up Jarmusch. He actually has a cameo in the first film, Leningrad Cowboys Go America.
As the car dealer. Mm-hmm. So I guess a quick plot synopsis of this.
Well, some backstory on the Leningrad Cowboys, I guess. So it started as a joke, kind of. It was members of a Finnish pop-punk band called the Sleepy Sleepers, and the band was conceived in a bar in 1986, I guess, as a joke, on the waning power of the Soviet Union. And the two members of the Sleepy Sleepers were friends with the director and said, hey, will you direct this music video for us? And then the music video turned into two others, which turned into the full movie, Leningrad Cowboys Go America. And then it was after that movie that the band actually took off on its own, became real, and they still perform today and put out albums. And
yeah, but it seems like they're kind of a Blue Man Group sort of operation now, because I looked up their Wikipedia page, and it seems like they have rotating members, and every time they perform, it's a whole different lineup.
Well, it looks like, their current lineup, there's only two members who have been in it since before 2003, and a lot have joined since 2011, and a list of about 20 former members. So, it is a Blue Man Group kind of operation.
Yeah. I bet everyone that's in the band now was just like being born when the movie came out.
Right. Well, the synopsis of the movie is about, it opens up on this tundra. Doesn't the
they're
title
supposed to be from
tundra?
Siberia, yeah.
And you just get this kind of rolling shot across this frozen farmland, and then you see tractors, and then you see this person frozen in the land holding a bass guitar, and he's got this gigantic pompadour that goes about 2 feet out from his forehead, and shoes that are just as pointy and just as long.
Yeah.
And then it cuts to the barn where you see this manager, who's, you can already tell is kind of skeezy by his coat. And then it cuts to inside the barn, and you see this band, all with that same hairstyle and hairdo, start to play a song. And it's this, I think it's a Russian folk song. And then they finish the song, and the manager turns to this guy saying, "It's crap." And the manager's like, "What do you mean?" It's like, "It won't sell here. It's not commercial. But take it to America. They'll buy anything." And so that's kind of where the movie takes off. They journey to America, and it's about their I guess they put on concerts and just their many adventures in America on their way to Mexico.
Yeah, to play a wedding.
Yeah. The first show they play, I think it's actually filmed at CBGB's.
Oh, yeah?
From what I read. And the guy there, the booker, says, I could book you all kinds of shows. How about Madison Square Garden? But first, let's see the band play. And they play, and the guy's like, here's my cousin's number. He's having a wedding in Mexico. You guys should go there. You'd be big there.
Yeah. So it's kind of a road trip movie interspersed with music. So
yeah.
That's kind of where I was drawing the Blues Brothers parallel.
Sure.
And even like the Jim Jarmusch parallel, because, you've seen Stranger Than Paradise, right?
Yes.
Yeah. That's another road trip movie that's very similar to this in a lot of ways.
Yeah, Jim Jarmusch is dry. I appreciate that. But I'm not a big fan of Jarmusch.
No. Well, that's your cross to bear, I guess.
It is. Well, I like Down by Law, but honestly, only after the point you get to the jail and you meet Benini. I don't know. Like, I think... I don't know. I think his stuff is interesting. Like, I've seen a lot of his stuff. Well, I guess not a lot, but Down by Law, Strangers in Paradise.
Well, Stranger Than Paradise and Ghost Dog Way of the Samurai are two of my favorite movies.
Yeah.
So.
Ghost Dog I haven't seen, and I want to see that one.
No,
I will see that one.
It's delightful.
But I'm guessing it's more of his older stuff. Oh, like Coffee and Cigarettes. I got through it just to get through it.
Yeah, that's just kind of something he threw together over the course of like 30 years.
Yeah.
So,
Nah, that's true.
Yeah, you get what you get.
And with is it Strangers in Paradise or Stranger
Than Paradise?
That's right. And that's where it's all these kind of vignettes that are just one shot before it cuts to the next one, which I thought was really interesting. Mm-hmm. I really appreciated that about it, but I felt like there was nothing for the characters for me to latch on to. I don't know. I mean, it's an interesting film.
Well, the kind of point of that movie is that they're just losers that aren't going anywhere. And it's kind of fun to see them flail and try to change, but they can't.
Yeah, I guess I appreciate that. But back to Leningrad Cowboys.
Yeah, so one thing I liked a lot about it is I like movies that have really outlandish elements that are played are just completely downplayed.
Yeah.
Like they bring their dead bass player with them to the United States and they just strap him to the roof of their car because one of the relatives of the bass player was like, take him to America, let him see the world before you bury him. Yeah. So the whole movie they have this this makeshift casket on top of their car with the neck of the bass guitar sticking out of it because they couldn't even be bothered to pry it out of his frozen hands. And just the fact that they have their wacky hairstyles and shoes, and it's just kind of accepted.
Yeah, no, I think all of the big joke, I guess, quote unquote joke about this is that they're playing it straight. They're playing it serious, which is why I think it's so funny. And
I love how the world has to accommodate their ridiculousness. Like if they're wearing a hat, they poke a hole in it so that their hair can stick through. Or when they have to drive the car, they roll back the point on their shoe and hammer it with a nail into their So,
but it's not really self-referential in that way. To the point where it's like, hey, look at us, we're making a joke. It's more like this is the world we're living in. And I think the most
I mean, if this was an American movie from the same period, every scene would have been like, look at that crazy hairstyle, or what's with your shoes, boy?
When I was just going to say, I think the most brilliant part about the joke is every show they play, the audience barely acknowledges them.
Oh yeah,
like there's every audience just kind of like is shot just looking at them like they're inconvenienced. Like we really have to listen to this, and then they finish their song and they kind of get off stage, and then the people just turn back to talking to whoever they were talking to.
Yeah, and there's only really two members of their group that get any kind of individual character, it seems, because even in the credits, there's Vladimir, the manager, the skeezy manager that's trying to screw them over at every turn. And then there's the other guy that's kind of the wannabe Leningrad cowboy. He couldn't grow his hair out.
And in the credits, he's listed as the village idiot, I think.
Yeah. But then everyone else is just listed under Leningrad Cowboys. And they kind of function as a group protagonist with the manager sort of being the antagonist.
Yeah.
Even though he's the only character that kind of goes through any sort of change, I guess, or at least is given, like makes choices and does things. I don't know, because the rest of them just kind of do what they're told.
Right. Exactly. Like they're all pretty. It's like childish in a way, but they're content to just get their quarter and go have a drink. Yeah.
Yeah, I love the scene where he brings them back a bunch of raw onions for dinner, and they just start eating their onions, and he sneaks off and goes and gets like a
giant hoagie sandwich. Yeah. And I wonder if there's any kind of critique of America and American culture in this, or like maybe just the American music industry, because I mean it starts out, the whole premise is take the band to America, they'll buy anything.
Yeah.
But then like the way they view American money, it's like, okay, the manager Vladimir hands out, here's a quarter for each of you. Don't spend it all.
Yeah.
It's like go into this bar and have a beer, but don't spend the whole quarter. So
well, it's kind of strange because it's Finnish actors and a Finnish production about Russians kind of making fun of America. So they're kind of taking an outside position to everything.
Well, see, I'm not sure if they're actually intentionally making fun of America.
Well, I mean, you can't say they weren't making fun of Russia.
Well, that's true. I mean, I think the whole thing started as kind of a critique of... it was
foreign
Russia.
Perceptions of America, maybe?
Could be.
Well, I mean, this movie was made like right at the end of the Soviet Union.
Yeah,
so
89, I think.
They were rife for lampooning at that point, right? Did Hasselhoff tear down the wall yet? Was that 90?
Hasselhoff.
He had a big old hammer.
Was it? I don't know. Around there. It was in the 80s sometime, I think. Late 80s. And yeah, I just love how deadpan all this was. Like, there's so many gags that happened off screen. Like the one instance where they finally tie up the manager saying, "We're sick of this. We know you have money." They take the money. All of the band but one go into a bar to buy liquor, and they send another one to get them food. And then it has one of those intertitles, because every city they go to, it has cuts to black and has an intertitle saying what city they're in.
Yeah.
This one pops up. It just says "Why?" ? And then it cuts back, and here comes the guy who's supposed to get food walking across the street in this just really awful, gaudy, bright orange cowboy suit with this shit-eating grin on his face.
Yeah.
And he goes up to the guys and he's just standing there like, "Look at me, isn't this awesome?" And the guys are like, "Where's the food?" And then it cuts to black again, has another intertitle. It's like they beat him severely.
Yeah.
And then it cuts to them in the car on their way to the next city, showing that dude just with bruises and cuts all over his face and frowning.
Yeah.
The biggest frown you can imagine. And that's just so funny. Because it was just funnier than showing the fight, or even them even being aggressive towards him.
Less expensive too.
True.
I mean, a lot of stuff in this movie is almost feels like necessity because of their minuscule budget.
Yeah.
Though, I mean, it still is an ambitious movie because they actually did travel all over America to make it.
Right.
You know.
Right, and from what I've read, I mean, Kaurismäki had done a few films before this, but this was his first film that got like a distribution in American cinemas. Like, this was his big American hit. And I guess that could be a segue into the second one, because that one was not so well received.
Oh, yeah?
Leningrad Cowboys Meet Moses.
Yeah, the sequel that was made in 94?
94.
Yes.
So at the end of the first one, they get to Mexico, and the dead bass player is revitalized by a shot of tequila.
Yeah.
Which is awesome. And then the
he
manager
was just in cryostasis the whole time.
Well, they kept him on ice.
Well, yeah, they kept him on ice, and he was used as a beer cooler for the manager for most of the trip.
Now, did you laugh when all those beer cans fell out of the car?
Well, of course.
Yeah. So at the end of that one, the manager sees the band doing well in Mexico, sneaks off, goes to a cactus, turns a tap, and pours himself a shot of whatever comes out of the cactus. I assume tequila, because that's where tequila comes from.
Yeah.
Right? And then he slinks off into the dark, never to be seen from again. And then that's where the second one picks up. They're in Mexico, Leningrad Cowboys. I think the prologue title shows up. It says they had a string of hits in the top 10, were very successful, but they succumbed to alcoholism because of tequila, and several of the members died because of it.
So, I mean, there were like 8 members in the first movie, and then there's only 4 left. And, 4 plus the village idiot.
Yeah, and they've all donned awesome mustaches, and they're wearing ponchos, and their boots
yeah,
are
they're
turned to
all
cowboy
garbed
boots.
in Mexican attire, and they're speaking Spanish, and they continue to speak Spanish.
And
for the
it
rest
starts
of the
with
movie.
one of them on a donkey going to a filling station to fill up a gas can, and he gets a telegram saying the Leningrad Cowboys have been invited to play a show on not Staten Island, Coney Island.
Yeah.
And they're like, "All right, vamonos." And they get in the car and they bust through the American border and they get to Coney Island. They play a show. Turns out it's one of those shows again where it looks like it's just like almost like a family restaurant where everyone there knows each other. There's bottles of vodka on the tables, and they're just turning and watching the band play with maracas and everything. And then they stop, and then everyone just turns back to whoever they were talking to, like they weren't even there. And then you see out of one of the hallways, Vladimir shows up, but he's got this huge, long beard.
Yes, and he claims to have become Moses in the desert.
He was reborn in the desert. He's now named Moses, but he has Vladimir's business knowledge, so he can take these guys back to Russia where they belong. But, play a series of shows through Europe.
So essentially it ends up being a road trip across Europe, starting in, France?
Yeah, well, I mean, they take off from New York in that boat. And it's like, they're just going to go ahead on a motorboat just across the ocean. And then Vladimir needs to stay behind so he can steal the nose of the Statue of Liberty.
Yeah. And then a man with a thick Eastern European accent from the CIA tracks him down for the rest of the movie, trying to get the nose back.
No, this one feels a lot more tongue-in-cheek to me.
Yeah, it didn't feel as... It didn't have the same dryness that I enjoyed from
it was in on the joke.
Yeah, a little too much.
I think so, but I actually liked it better.
Really?
Yeah, because I think it was more absurd. I mean, I think they work well together, but I enjoyed the second one more because there was more conflict, I guess. I don't know. I don't know what it was exactly, but like the absurdity of him stealing the nose and the fact that when he threw the rope up, he just kind of like limply tossed his wrist up, and it was assumed at that point it was up at the top of the Statue of Liberty.
Yeah.
And I thought that was really funny because then it cuts to him on the wing of an airplane.
Yeah, this one went a little more Naked Gun on.
Yeah, a little bit.
I mean, there were some like patently ridiculous things beyond anything you saw in the first movie, like, you know, making a transatlantic flight from the outside wing, covered in Eskimo garb,
or that you could saw off the nose of the Statue of Liberty.
Oh yeah,
and I wonder that seems like a more, I don't want to say it's heavy-handed because I don't know what it's trying to say. Some kind of critique of America, like, you know, I've got your nose, and I don't know. Maybe it's they're trying to like apologize for the first one. It's like, we really didn't mean to paint you guys in a bad light. You know, we've got your nose. I don't know. I really don't know. But
yeah, I enjoyed the second one. I think I like the first one better. I tend towards the more understated. Though, like calling this one like obnoxiously over the top humor wouldn't be correct either.
Yeah, because it's not over the top.
No, just compared to the first one, you know.
And it's funny. I think I read. I think it was on the Wikipedia page for Meet Moses that Kaurismäki said he was inspired, or this movie was kind of inspired by the Old Testament.
Yeah, there was a lot of religious,
which I think was his intent. Because it's Moses. They meet Moses. Moses has to deliver them to the Promised Land. And there's all these religious...
And both movies had a Last Supper scene also. Because in the first one, they're in that restaurant, I think, and the guy's just like... One of the other band members is just like breaking up bread and like handing it out.
No, that's in the second one.
Well, that was Vladimir in the second one, as Moses was doing it. But
they're both in the second one. The one where they get to that hotel, and they go and sit in the little kind of behind booth area, and there's just all this smorgasbord in front of them.
One of the Mexican...
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, bass player, I think.
Okay, all right. And that guy had a sweet bass, too. That big triangular...
Yeah, that huge triangle one.
That he had to, like, set one end on the ground, and it was still at his chest.
That's pretty one of those. So what I read, though, is Kaurismäki, the director, said... So he was inspired by the Old Testament, but then he realized no one had read it. And that was his quote. So that's why it wasn't as well received. Because, I mean, he was playing off illusions of the Old Testament that didn't really, I don't know, I guess don't really fit with the idea of the band.
Yeah, and once they get to Europe, there's a whole, they meet up with a whole communist wing of the band.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's kind of weird. It's just assumed that there's hundreds of these people somewhere, and when they lose some band members, more come to fill in.
Or like in the first one, when they get to that filling station in Texas, and the guy filling their tank has the hair and the shoes, and all they say is, "Cousin?" And it cuts to him in the car.
Yeah.
And the classic joke about being in a band. It's like, "Wait, can you play any instruments?" No. What does he say? Shoot, I forget the joke, but it ends up being like, "So can you play any instruments?" No. Can you carry a tune? No. All right, you can be the singer or something like that.
Yeah, their singer is often the weakest link in the band.
Yeah, which is why I'm kind of bummed you didn't watch the Total Balalaika show, which came out the same year as the second one. It was an actual hour-long documentary-style live concert footage of one of their live shows, because this is after the band actually became a real band.
Yeah,
and they actually got a dude. I think he's in the second one at certain points. He can sing.
Yeah,
and he does it well. And their production is amazing. Like, I would actually travel as far as, I actually thought about this earlier. I'd go to Seattle to see them. I'd go to Vegas to see them, actually. If they were touring through America.
Yeah.
Because it was an awesome live show. It had like a 160-member Russian choir, all men, and like a dance troupe. They mixed like Russian folk and Finnish folk music with rock and roll covers. I don't know.
Yeah, I liked in the second movie how at one point Vladimir, the Mexican part of the band went away, and he was like, "Where's the what did he say? The Mexican section of our orchestra?"
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're off peddling for pesos by singing that tequila song. Yeah.
I like how they just assimilated the culture like a chameleon, and were unable to shake it once they got back to Europe.
Yeah, again, they're just playing it straight.
And he kept getting into debates with the communist wing of the band. Like when he was shouting like Bible verses to him, and he was shouting Marxist propaganda to him.
Well, same with the CIA agent too.
Yeah. No, it was fun.
Yeah.
And when he tried to, there was that whole sequence where Moses, in quotes, goes up to the mountain and he sets the bush on fire, and he jackhammers into the rock so that water comes out, and then he comes back down from the mountain, and he sees his band are playing a song, and they're next to this tractor that says the Golden Calf on the side. It has like a little calf hood ornament, and he just loses his shit for no reason. Starts hitting people with sticks because that's what.
Well, I think that's where the Old Testament allusions got a little heavy-handed, and maybe didn't translate to the comedy. I don't know.
I enjoyed it. I mean, if you don't have a working knowledge of the Bible, you know, you're not going to have a very good understanding of Western culture.
Yeah, Kaurismäki's quote about that, I think, is why that's pertinent, because who really does have a working knowledge of the Bible?
This guy?
Do you really?
Yeah. I was raised hardcore Catholic, bro.
I was raised Mormon.
Yeah, well, that's the fake Bible, let's be honest.
You still have the Old and New Testament.
Well, but then you made up
your
own.
Well, okay, let me put it this way. I'm an ex-Mormon, which means I know more about the Book of Mormon and Bible than most Mormons do.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Yeah, so anyway, I enjoyed the movies thoroughly. I would recommend them to a certain kind of person.
People who like dry comedies, I guess, or I don't know, just because it's not overly weird. It's just odd.
Well, I mean, looking at like the poster for the movie, you'd be just surprised as to how not weird the movie is.
Yeah.
Because I really like things that have outlandish elements that are downplayed. Like Mike likes to do this a lot. A lot of his movies are manga adaptations, so people have really gaudy costumes and stuff.
Right.
But they're treated in a way where they're just kind of almost bored with the ridiculousness of their surroundings, so it becomes almost more natural than if it wasn't out there.
Yeah, I can feel that.
Yeah. And next week, we'll be watching Sailor Suit and Machine Gun, which I think will make a good companion piece to these, because this is another movie that has a really outlandish premise that is handled in a shockingly naturalistic way.
Okay. I know nothing about it.
Yeah. It's a hard one to find. I had to import it from Hong Kong. But it's relatively cheap if any of our listeners want to pick it up. I think I paid $10. That includes shipping from Hong Kong for it. So
cool.
So look forward to that. I think I don't know. Any closing thoughts?
No, I don't think so.
Did you look up any of the old Sleepy Sleepers songs?
No, I didn't. I didn't go that far. But I looked up some more current Leningrad Cowboys albums. I think it's from like 2006, and it's fun.
Yeah, I watched a bunch of the old Sleepy Sleepers music videos from the 80s. And it was pretty good. It was like new wave music before new wave just became another word for disco.
Yeah.
You know, it reminded me a lot of like the Contortions and your early Talking Heads kind of stuff. Maybe a little peppier than that.
Cool. It's interesting that this joke band actually became bigger than that band that spawned it.
Almost like Talking Heads after a Rockstar energy drink or something.
Yeah, and like Total Balalaika show, 70,000 people from Russia and Finland read that show, and I'm like, that was 1994.
I'm glad that the Russians are in on the joke too. Because sometimes I wonder about them.
Take themselves a little too seriously, but I guess with enough vodka, anything's funny.
That's true.
That's a stereotype. I'm sorry.
It's pretty.
Hopefully they laugh at that.
I'm
not really sorry.
There's truth in many stereotypes. Let's be honest. All right, so I need to get another beer, so I think we're about done for this. That was episode 2, the Sack to Sack podcast. All these movies are available on Hulu Plus, which I recently got my own subscription to because I got my paycheck. So.
That's what it takes, huh?
Yeah.
Right on.
So there we go. Any closing statements?
No.
All right,
watch them.
All right, say good night, Isaac.
Good night, Isaac.
All right, later.
Ride, cowboy.